generally speaking, we're probably booking somewhere between 5 to 10 calls a month off of LinkedIn. I think on an aggregated basis, at least $100,000 in annual contracts came in through kind of LinkedIn.
Francesco raised $4 million for his AI B2B SaaS. Now, in this case study video, you're going to see from Francesco himself his experience, what results he got, and what he was doing on LinkedIn to make this all work. So without further ado, let's get straight into it.
So yeah, I'm Francesco. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Unity AI. We are building AI sales agents that are really purpose-built for the real estate industry, specifically focused on helping operators who are getting a lot of inbound lead flow to more effectively engage those leads, qualify those leads, and schedule tours and ultimately close those leads.
Awesome. And then tell the people what results you've seen on LinkedIn so far in terms of revenue, calls booked, impressions, and hell, even your fundraise.
Before and after sort of really like leaning into LinkedIn in many ways like represents in my mind when we really were in market as a business, starting to talk kind of vocally about who we were and what we were building. And I think from a metric standpoint, it was clear that this was the best channel for us. I think generally speaking, we're probably booking somewhere between 5 to 10 calls a month off of LinkedIn. I think on an aggregated basis, at least $100,000 in annual contracts came in through kind of LinkedIn influenced accounts. Yeah, ultimately, I think it also has a broader halo impact across other parts of your business. It certainly helped with us kind of during our lead up to our fundraising, starting to build awareness around the brand, hiring partnerships. Really every facet of our business like saw some like lift from the brand awareness that LinkedIn storytelling kind of made possible.
Awesome. And before we get into like all the results, I want to bring it right back to the start. So before, when you were like right at the beginning of your journey, we were speaking about LinkedIn and you were trying to debate whether you should do it or not. And it was more like there was business and market reasons, and we were trying different verticals at the time, I remember. But there was also questions like personal choice. Like what was going through your mind back then about whether you should do LinkedIn, whether you should start posting, and how you were going to go to market?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was a kind of a first-time founder trying to figure out how to bring a product to market. And, you know, we had decided to take kind of the scrappy approach of bootstrapping kind of like the first stage of our journey. So what you would probably now like look back and call like our pre-seed. We sort of bootstrapped that leg of the company building process. And so I had to kind of think sort of outside the box around how would we sort of, you know, in absence of marketing dollars, like generate eyeballs and awareness. So I sort of just like looked around and looked at like what were other successful SaaS founders doing, like what were patterns that I saw for those that seemed to be kind of growing quickly. And like it was evident that there's this sort of like a major trend happening of sort of founder-led content on LinkedIn. So like I think just from like a business rationale standpoint, like I saw that this was likely the right strategy for us. I think what I struggled with was like the vulnerability associated with like putting myself out there. Like historically, you know, it's funny to say this in retrospect because now I've been sort of like posting on LinkedIn like daily for over a year. But like prior to that, I posted maybe like once every 2 to 3 years, and it was probably like, you know, liking a colleague's like new, you know, job alert. And it felt like really uncomfortable to sort of put myself out there. And I think one thing that I remember like very distinctly about our early conversation about, you know, using Media Engine was that like that was very much kind of like where the opportunity lied, right? So like the vulnerability gap is what sort of holds so many people back from doing it. And in that, there is the arbitrage for those who can get over the hump and do it. And I sort of just like instinctively bought into that. And then I thought, okay, if I'm going to do this, I know I'm going to need someone to hold me accountable because it's naturally going to make me a bit insecure. And I thought, you know, working with a third party like agency to sort of help not only produce that content, but be, you know, an accountability buddy for what it's worth. If I knew I was spending money on an engagement, I knew that I would have to get ROI out of it. And that meant I would have to do it every day. So for me, that was sort of like a really helpful way to jump in.
Yeah, I love it. I remember we went through various models as well of writing. So this is like, I remember having an early conversation with you back in the day. It was like, you've not written before on LinkedIn. So it's going to feel weird to either have us write for you or even for you to write yourself and then put those words out and then to be like, oh, the market or the algorithm doesn't like these words. I need to adjust how I speak for the platform. And there was this whole learning around how to write and your tone of voice, etc. How do you think that's impacted you personally? Because now you are able to spin up a LinkedIn post within like 10 minutes, I think. and just
Yeah.
right off the cuff on your phone, probably.
Yeah, yeah. I think I learned very quickly that there's a reason certain formats go viral and why people who are quite good at generating following kind of end up organizing their posts around the same like
Yeah.
7 or 8 formats. And it definitely like bucked kind of my like conventional thinking around how to write. There is like sort of like an ingredient. There's like a science behind like what captures attention. I think seeing my sort of original takes or sample ideas get converted into that like over and over and over again, just slowly but surely enabled me to sort of master that formula myself. And now it's sort of like second nature, but it was definitely a learning process. You see it now kind of like all over LinkedIn. Like it kind of, you have your hook, you have your like spaced out paragraphs, you have your key take, like there's an art. It's what gets attention.
I love it. Tell us a little bit about all the other benefits you had to link to your business beyond booking calls, because I know you've literally got a team of 10 now. You went from, I think, 2 to 10 in the last 6 months, 8 months, it sounds. I think maybe I'm wrong. Partnerships got unlocked. You were going to conferences. That was already baked in, but you were now getting them posted on LinkedIn. Like, tell me about all these other secondary benefits that you start to see.
Yeah, I'd say like the number one metric that I just sort of, you can't quantify is just a brand awareness of your business. Like I will walk into an event, like a conference, and people will sort of know about my company and they'll actually know who I am, and they'll sort of like come up to me and be like, "Hey, I've been reading your post. That's super interesting. Like, thanks for sharing." And it's like creates this immediate like sort of like acknowledgement point with prospective new customers or just people in the industry that makes them like easier to talk to. What I'd add is like it's not just awareness. It's like there's something about the continuous momentum of doing it that make everyone also think, rightly or wrongly, like in our case, certainly rightly, like that you're just growing and you're just doing well and you're like crushing it. People will just like come up to me and be like, "You guys are crushing it." And they're like, "You literally just think that because I post on LinkedIn 5 days a week." But hey, man, like that's great. Like that's great they think that. And thankfully we are.
I love it. I love it. I remember that when that happened to me. The first ever time someone came up to me in like I think it was like a VC meetup or something and said like, "Hey, I've seen you on like webinars." I'm like, what? Like, this is crazy.
Right.
And it's weird. Like, where did you see me? What happened? Such an awesome conversation. What was the first time for you? I'm curious. When was that first time?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was at a conference. I like still remember like this woman coming up to me and being like, "Hey, like she like introduced herself to me as someone who read my post." It was like I was like a mini influencer celebrity in this like really small industry, and like it was the weirdest thing. Like she introduced herself and how she also sort of subscribes to a lot of my thinking and sort of how AI agents will sort of like upend like and it was just so cool. It was like I felt like a true like thought leader or something.
You are, man. It definitely is that. And your point around like how fast the business looks like it's growing. Another awesome thing. I've had people come up to me off the string of probably like 5 viral posts, and they've come in. Partners are coming to me, "Oh, you guys are growing massively. How do we work together?" I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'll take it. I'll run with the punches here." I'm guessing that's like happened to you in several different formats.
Yeah. I think it happens from mostly people sort of like within the industry, a lot of like other vendors who sort of also have become like inspired by like I think I've definitely seen other people, and this is a good thing, like be influenced to also do the type of posting that I do because they see that it's working and it's like garnering attention. And so yeah, I think it comes from all directions. Vendor partnerships, prospective candidates. Unfortunately, there's a lot of spam that comes with it too. So you have to be good at, like, figuring out how to just archive. But that's to be expected.
Awesome. And let's talk a little bit about outreach, because we're talking a lot about content, but we went through at least like 3 or 4 different verticals of testing lead lists, and we found some like really interesting things going, really good scripts that work. What do you think about the usage of LinkedIn for outreach to certain ICPs or firmographic people?
Yeah, I mean, I think LinkedIn, I did a retrospective. It's definitely like my most impactful channel. I think if you blend like good content with a good outbound effort on LinkedIn, you'll see like you'll just magnify the impact of that outbound. I think what we do now is we basically have content that's running 3 to 4 times a week, and then we're also sort of maxing out my connections into certain verticals that we're selling. And we sort of, have some drip automation where we like send after a week or two of being connected with them. Hopefully they've seen some of my content. We then send them like a very sort of crisp, short note, asking if they'd be interested to learn more about our solution, maybe dropping like one or two companies in their vertical that we work with. And it like kind of on autopilot sets like a decent number of meetings. So I think if you can kind of blend both, it's quite powerful.
Yeah, awesome. Any comments or thoughts on how LinkedIn impacted either sales cycle, speed or length, and or your fundraising cycle, speed or length?
I think on the sales side, it definitely has one of the best ways to rekindle deals that sort of didn't convert in the past. Mm-hmm. So instead of sending, your like 3 month later or 6 month later, like, hey, following up, I know it didn't work out last. But if they just see your content and that you're just staying top of mind, like eventually they'll just buy from you. And so I think that for us, it's less about the initial sales cycle. It's more about the marketing and brand awareness than it is about the velocity of the sales cycle once we're kind of in conversations. It's sort of just like it keeps everybody in play at the top of the funnel. And then the sales cycle kind of, I would say from a start to close, hasn't changed too much. It's just that there's just more at the top.
Awesome. Sweet. Before we wrap up, tell us about your experience working with us, working with me. How's it all been over the last few months?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think our relationship started when you were like a little bit of a therapist and kind of got me up the hump and kind of like willing to start doing this. And I think it's evolved to more of like a narrative strategy, like a storytelling strategist. And I think Media Engines has been one of the things that I've been very appreciative of is that you guys have sort of evolved your engagement with me as I have evolved in sort of my own journey on LinkedIn. So we started in sort of a dynamic where it was mostly you creating content and then it was me creating content and it was you again. And we kind of like had these different like kind of engagement that reflected how much work I wanted to do versus offsource to you guys. Yeah, generally speaking, like we've been working together now for almost years. It's been a great partnership and I think definitely going to be core to what we do going forward.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And if anyone watching this is a real estate business, so you either are self-storage or co-working, or maybe you're like a different vertical and you get like a high volume of inbound leads with a decent ACV, Francesco's your guy because you'll convert all your leads at 2x the rate you're currently doing it without any extra effort.
Awesome.
Was that a good pitch? I think it was.
Yeah. Great pitch.
There we go. Next salesperson here. All right. Thank you so much, man. Peace.
All right. Thanks, Aman. Cheers.
So if you sell something highly specialized, if you want to get traction on LinkedIn, build a better hiring pipeline, build a better partnership pipeline, build more calls, sales calls, and ultimately build your brand, then you might also want to become like Francesco. Now, if you want to do that, you can work one-on-one with me or you can work with my agency. Just go down below, book in a call, and we can have a chat. I look forward to chatting to you one day very, very soon.